Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force. I mean, we may be done with the Gen 13 mini-series, but that doesn't mean we're done with Gen 13 for the week. So we'll talk about all these guys in a second here, just as soon as we get done explaining to you how you can spend your money on Patreon.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Blood Force. So this is Blood Force. Blood Force is a comic book that I write and draw. It is both a celebration and a parody of 90s extreme comics, and it is full of crazy stuff like this, and the action is only getting better with every page. And in order to read Blood Force, all you have to do is open the description below, click the link, go to my Patreon, and subscribe there. By subscribing on my Patreon, not only do you get access to the Blood Force comic, all of it in its entirety, you also get access to every video that I make before I post it to YouTube, usually about a week or two in advance, as well as the pre-Blood Force stuff. So we're talking about the sketches I made coming up with Blood Force, as well as a couple of projects I worked on before I did Blood Force. All this for just $3 American. You cannot get Arm Blades and Vengeance for a better price. So subscribe today, let's get Blood Force out on those shelves, and let's give the world the comics it deserves.
Alright, so we're back with Gen 13 number 0. With a bit of an inflated price tag, actually, looking at this. The issues before this all kind of had the same price at $195 American, $265 Canadian. This one's $250 in the States and $355 Canadian. That's a bit much, but it's a bit of a special issue, so I guess they figure they can gouge us a little bit. And this is an image that I think we all saw fairly often. So this is kind of the Gen 13 theme, really. You know, when we get them all falling all over each other, it's good for a laugh. And usually Fairchild will end up, you know, with her boobs resting on grunge somewhere. And Freefall and her smaller chest will be upset. And didn't quite have the hadn't quite figured out how to draw a smaller chested woman at this point, eh? Just like, so she just has, you just reduce the diameter and make them kind of more centralized. It's, well, no, not really, but that's okay. I mean, you don't want to make it look like you're drawing kids either, so that's, you know, maybe this is fine. All right, so I don't know what the deal with the balloons is. Maybe we're celebrating. That must be it. So this is 4 stories. So first one here is going to be done by Jim Lee, inked by Alex Garner, which is an interesting mix, because I don't think we've seen much of that. And then we're going to get Desert Bloom, which is a Burnout and Rainmaker story drawn by Richard Johnson. And Richard Johnson is the guy who did one of the posters in the earlier issue for number 2, actually. That one there, which I believe I said was pretty good, just not, it's like good detail and everything. It just doesn't look like an image drawing, you know. So we'll see a bit of that. Third story is Grunge and Freefall by J. Scott Campbell, inked by Mark Farmer and Gary Martin. Okay. And the last one is going to be a Lynch story drawn by Travis Charest and inked by Alex Garner. So that'll be good to look at. This is very early Travis Charest. And another guy who would be like just a complete fucking gold mine for Jim Lee. He found a few guys like this. But we're going to start off with Jim Lee drawing a Fairchild story. So first thing we're going to get is a bunch of backstory, because this is written by Brandon Choi. And it's going to fill up the entire goddamn page. Of course. This is just breaking down all of the miniseries. This is breaking down Gen 13 number 1/2. And then this is breaking down what's going on with the rest of the issue, which seems unnecessary. I mean, if you bought the issue, you're gonna read it and find out. But okay. And we're gonna see a little bit of Jim Lee being influenced in his art style by J. Scott Campbell, actually. Part of this is going to seem to be because, well, you know, it's going to seem like this because he's being inked by Alex Garner, who also inked J. Scott Campbell. But I do remember this time this is like around Wildcats, I don't know, I think around number 8, where all of a sudden his style got a little bit more cartoony. And yeah, and I think it actually kind of permanently affected his art going forward. Because I don't know, it looked like fun, I guess. So Fairchild is going back home to visit her cousin who married her high school sweetheart, who's an asshole. It's all kind of standard stuff, you know. And cousin's like, wow, you're 3 feet taller. That's so weird. And she's like, yeah, I'm a late bloomer. Okay, sure. She's like a high school freshman, so I guess it's possible she could have grown a little bit. I don't know about a foot, but, you know, sure. And we get a little bit here with where you notice that the cousin has a bruise by her eye here. And she's going to get hit on by her, you know, her cousin's asshole jock husband. And he's straight up going to draw him looking like, you know, a monkey man. And it looks like some guys in suits have been asking about Fairchild. And they gave him some money to point her out. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, give me that money. I'll go and rat out my wife's cousin. Why not? And when she pipes up, he winds up to his cracker one, which brings Fairchild back to defend her cousin's honor. And that's when the guys in the suits catch up, and they shock both Fairchild and the guy. So that's something. And so Fairchild, you know, she's going to run, she's all looped out, runs right in the path of the train here, which hits her square on. But we're not, you know, this is interesting because we're doing a slightly like J. Scott Campbell influenced style, but we're not really doing his style of panels. Jim Lee's still going to keep it fairly safe with the panel layout. So, which I don't quite get. I mean, this is like an 8-page story. Like, just throw some fun shit out there. It's a fun shit kind of book. You know. Anyway. So, yeah, Fairchild throws the train at the dudes and then just starts running. And some guy shows up and says, yeah, no, Lynch sent me. And she goes, okay, and speeds away. And then it turns out that all these guys were working for Lynch and that she's now headed home. So this may just have all been a ploy by Lynch to keep Fairchild from, I don't know, keep her on her toes, that, you know, she can't just wander off and visit relatives kind of thing, and that they are actually kind of on the run. But, like, you look at this, like, Jim Lee never drew people with eyes this big before. It's interesting to just see it kind of pop up out of nowhere all of a sudden. And yeah, still keeping with the kind of conservative page layouts. So that was okay. That was, a decent little story, I guess. Had a little bit of everything. But honestly, like, no fun to be had in that thing. And I mean, fun is kind of the watchword for Gen 13. Part of it is that everything is so stiff in the layouts and just, yeah, I don't know. He's not, they're not drawing anything particularly interesting. He's not drawing it in a fun way. And now we're going to Richard Johnson, which is the most generic name I think I've seen at Homage Studios. Or Wildstorm. They're Wildstorm now. All right, so Burnout is out in the desert, and he's trying to find the reservation that Rainmaker is living on. And, finds it, and it seems like he's kind of got a bit of a thing for her. And not a whole lot to this little story thing. And, there's a fair bit about, I guess we learn their backstories here. So we learn about the reservation that Rainmaker grew up on. We learned that she can fly. I didn't know that before. We learned that Burnout grew up in foster homes and stuff. And the art's all fine, but it's kind of unspectacular. That said, it's unspectacular material, too. It's just a bunch of talking. It's hard to come up with some cool images when, although I guess he had a couple of moments. Like here, could have been more fun. This one here, that's about it. So again, this is a guy who seems to have good fundamentals. So probably could be a decent comic book artist if he wanted to. I still don't know if he, if he ever did anything after this. But so they're gonna hook up with Grunge and Roxy, and I'll go head over to Lynch's place. It seems to be the consensus anyway. So then we get to Grunge and Freefall in Vegas. And this is J. Scott Campbell, so this should turn the fun up, I think. And right away, we're going to get, he's going to open up some panel borders. And stuff's just going to, it's just going to get a little bit more fun. And the story starts out, as I'm sure a few Gen 13 stories do, with Grunge getting hungry. So, they spent pretty much all the money that Lynch gave them. They're on the search for Freefall's stepmother, who, last she heard, was working in Vegas. So Freefall still has $5. Grunge takes it, and they're going to play some craps. Or roulette, I guess. They're playing roulette. And he's going to get her to levitate the ball into the correct slot there. And that's going to... Apparently he's just playing for breakfast, but if he started with $5... one win should do it, theoretically. And some dude from Hong Kong here is like, yo, man, you look familiar. Good job winning and stuff. And he's like, no. I was born there, but I was raised in Seattle. It's like, oh, wow. Okay, well, we're like bros, right? So, just good job. Good luck out there. And he's like, yeah, I like your jacket. You should take my jacket. And all this stuff. And naturally, so this guy's going to be someone that is going to get Grunge in trouble. It turns out he's a Hong Kong assassin. And when the guy running the casino sees Grunge in the snakeskin jacket with the shades, he goes, oh my God, it's that guy. And he's trying to move in on my turf. And, so we're getting a fun little mistaken identity story here. You can do a fair bit with 8 or 10 pages or whatever. And as soon as they see these guys coming for them, they do first of all, he's like, oh no, they must have figured out we're not 18. And they do the whole thing with throwing the chips up to distract the other casino goers and get in the way of these guys here. As they're leaving, Grunge does his absorbing man powers on the fountain here. It becomes a bit of a fire hydrant. So that's a variation that we hadn't seen before. And so then the mobster guys lose them, even though that's very obviously them there. And it's like, what happened? Did they roll in flour or something? It's like, no, apparently Grunge can... So Grunge absorbed the stone, and he was able to pass it to Freefall somehow. Which they address. They say he can do that. It does feel a little bit like we're making up powers as we go. And they get spotted and leave the casino as soon as Rainmaker and Burnout show up. And they ride off into the night to go and meet up with Lynch. So yeah, no, fun little story. I think it showcased the characters fairly well. Showed off a bunch of their powers. And we got to see a little bit of J. Scott Campbell. Always good. Alright, so now we are moving on to the Lynch section of the book. And this one is drawn by Travis Charest. Inked by Alex Garner, I think. Yeah. So it's interesting because it's early Travis Charest and it's not Richard Friend doing the inks. But it's still going to stand apart from the rest of the book, that's for sure. So we get a bunch of exposition. So just to remind you, Brandon Choi is still writing this. And what they're going to do is he's going to wipe out any trace of the Genesis program. So that's what the source of Gen 12, Gen 13, all that. So that they have a clean slate. They'll still be looking for Lynch, but Gen 13 themselves should be off the radar, theoretically. And we're kicking off with a very Travis Charest-looking panel here. Or, well, page, really. That's some wild-looking stuff. And as one of the former heads of I.O., he knows the blueprints backwards and forwards. He had a couple of trapdoors. Well, not trapdoors, but just flaws put into the blueprints just in case he ever needed to break in if he was on the outs with them. And one of them is through the men's room. So we're gonna get some Nick Fury Black Ops shit. where he sneaks into the bathroom, puts on a refractor suit, so he should be effectively invisible. These figures look great. They're just very, I don't know, very naturalistic. He's able to, just put an out of order sign on the door and run directly to the central processor here, the iCore. So he knows that his password has been kicked out of the system, but he figures out who's been ordered to replace him as, one of the new triumvirate, and he was the guy who assigned him that password, and apparently they didn't think of that. So, yeah, he purges out any mention of Project Genesis and diverts some of IO's covert assets for their own use. So, stealing some cash. That's not a bad idea, at least. And on the run out, notices the out-of-order sign is gone now. Turns out there's some dude here. This woman that he passed earlier is a telepath. She recognized his brain. And they're all like, what are you going to do now? Are you going to hand me over to Craven? If I did, I'd be able to write my own ticket. Shut up and do it. It's like, not today, but this makes us even. Ugh. So, I mean, at least, I don't know. I mean, I guess we know now how, they're going to be off of IO's radar and where Lynch is getting money to do anything, but, this story was dumb. It looks great, at least. Even early Travis Charest is still pretty awesome looking and doesn't look anything like anything else. And this is Gen 13 themselves showing up at the beach house that is going to serve as their headquarters. And we get Lynch doing his best Sean Connery look here at a Danger Girl. So it's going to be like a Charlie's Angels and Bosco kind of situation, which seems to be a setup that J. Scott Campbell enjoys quite a bit. All right, so that's it for the story stuff. Get a poster for Team 7. That'll be a book coming out. There's that Aaron Weisenfeld guy. Yeah, he's not bad, and from what I've seen, he gets quite a bit better. You know what? I remember when I went to a convention, they were doing all sorts of promo stuff, and I actually got a poster on this for free. And just like, yeah, I'll put that up in my room, sure. And then we get the Wildstorm swimsuit edition. Is this Brett Booth drawing? Kind of looks like it. It is too. Oh, I called that shit. And Blackthorn for Nintendo, I guess? Or Super or something. You would think Super at least. If the corollary is Genesis, this should be for Super. I remember seeing this ad a bunch with a fairly Jim Lee looking poster here, but I don't remember ever seeing this game anywhere. And then the Backlash series is coming out soon. So yeah, this is right around the time when I went to that. I only went to a couple of conventions when I was a kid. I wish I'd been able to go to more or knew about more. I didn't pay that much attention to them. I really wasn't into the Image Comics stuff that long myself, maybe a year. So I knew, there were a couple of conventions I was aware of. And then I was on independent shit and, poo-pooed conventions going forward. The thing about conventions back then, apparently you could get original art super cheap, which, would have been a good thing to know at the time. I didn't have much money, but I had a bit. I could have gotten a couple pages at least. Anyway, that is going to do it for Gen 13. So yeah, fun stuff. I'm kind of looking forward to the regular series eventually, where J. Scott Campbell will, I'm sure, have taken another couple of dozen leaps, and will be super polished at that point. There's a couple of moments in here where it gets he gets a little bit awkward, but for the just for a second, and it's really just a polished artist, having a rough panel. That happens all the time. Didn't happen to Travis Charest in this one, but yeah, this is all pretty good. So yeah, fun stuff to get under our belt, and nice to be able to take a long look at the early J. Scott stuff. You know, I think I've said several times now, I didn't at the time. So being able to just look at it from panel to panel and go, you know, okay, well, I can see the potential, you know, in issue 1 and issue 2. And I'm like, but he's really good at this and this and this. And then by issue 3 and 4 and 5, be like, oh, so he's just fully got a handle on this. And he can draw, you know, like pretty much whatever he wants to. It's impressive stuff. And you know, I can definitely see a bunch of stuff I could take from this, whether it's pacing or page design, anything like that. There's all sorts of stuff you can take from even early J. Scott Campbell. It's like I said, impressive. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications. Go over, follow me on Twitter. More importantly, go and subscribe on Patreon. That's where all these videos go as soon as I upload them. That's usually a week or two before they get to YouTube. It's also where all the Blood Force pages go, as well as all my process stuff and any Patreon exclusives I think of. So a whole bunch of cool content on there. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.